Welcome back to MMA Al Dente. I am the guy who picked Jussier Formiga to defeat Alex Perez. And I'm here to talk about Vicente Luque versus Ian Machado Garry. Garry is 13-0, 26 years old, and he's got 4 inches of height, but giving up 2 inches of reach to 32-year-old Luque, who is 22, 9-1. Let me start by saying I am aware of all the shit going on with Ian Garry. I follow the MMA news very closely, and this guy has been dominating the news for the last month. Not even so much with what he's done, but, other fighters commenting about him, Sean Strickland and whatever. And he has had quite a month. I'm just saying, I don't know if it's going to affect him. I have to assume it's not going to, but I'm also making this video before the press conference. And I'm anxious to see the press conference for every reason, but especially my number one reason is to see what happens with Ian Garry. Because I'm interested in all the gossip and horse shit just like you. You can pretend you're not, but you are. I want to see them talking shit about each other. And like I always say, I want to see drama. I want to see fighters kidnapping each other's kids. And going, you want to see your son again? Then you'll meet me at WrestleMania. Or UFC 296, motherfucker. All right. But in this fight here, Ian Garry is a big favorite, and that's because he has everybody's respect as a fighter. You know, whether or not he has your respect as a man, if you don't respect him as a fighter, you're fucking missing something. You got blinders on, because he is a problem. We've seen him already against good competition. Neil Magny, Daniel Rodriguez. Guys certainly aren't as dangerous as Vicente Luque, which was what makes this matchup very interesting, but they're at or near the same realm. So he's fought some good competition, and he's largely dominated everybody, Ian Garry. He is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, I think 6-0 in the UFC, and has only really shown vulnerability once against Kenan Song. Kenan Song clipped him with a counter left hook in the pocket, and it sent him on his ass. And then Kenan Song said, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to out-wrestle him. And then he out-wrestled him for like 20 seconds, and that was it for his offense. And Ian Garry, of course, put him away deep in round 3. Very deep into round 3. But Ian has fought better fighters and been largely dominant. Neil Magny's the best guy he fought. And it was at that fight when I chose not to like Ian Garry. So I was ahead of the curve. But he dominated Neil Magny. Dominated him and wasn't able to put him away, but he was able to chop him up on the outside and toss him around and never really let Neil into that fight. It was very, very impressive. Even more impressive, I guess, is putting away Daniel Rodriguez, who's historically been very tough, and Ian Garry kicked him in the head in 2 minutes and sent him on his ass. He's also no stranger to fighting long. Of course, he fought Magny to a decision, but also won 2 decisions against Darian Weeks and Gabe Green. He's got 5 decision wins overall in his 13 wins, so that's a good trait as a fighter. And Ian Garry is a really good fighter fighting on the outside. Really long, tall, great strikes. Of course, he is giving up 2 inches of reach, which could come into play here, but I don't know if that measures leg reach. I don't think it does. And Ian Garry, I imagine, will be better at kicking range, especially with his movement. I imagine he's going to try to duplicate the performance of Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, who had a lot of success fighting on the outside, using his karate at range against Vicente Luque. But Luque is incredibly dangerous. He's on that level, or above the level, I'd say, of Magny and D-Rod as a fighter, but he is exceptionally more dangerous than anybody Ian Garry's fought. He has 22 wins, 19 finishes, 11 of them via knockout, 8 via submission. And I'm sure of those 8 submissions, fucking a ton of them are Darce chokes. And that's the thing with Vicente Luque. He is so dangerous. If he hurts you, he's got more than one way to finish you quickly. He's got exceptional power and exceptional submission prowess. And usually when guys are hurt, they're ducking down in one way or another. One snap down from Luque and you're in a choke, just like with Tony Ferguson in his prime. But Luque's got that power, first of all, and especially that check left hook. on the inside, where I think if Ian Garry gets caught coming in, Vicente Luque is going to be waiting. I'm sure he's seen the Kenan Song fight. And, of course, he has 2 inches of reach, Vicente Luque. He's going to be looking to reach Ian Garry when Ian Garry has his hands down. And that's what makes this a very interesting fight. As far as the vulnerability of Vicente Luque, he's got 9 losses. He's been finished 3 times. Twice by submission, which doesn't really factor into my analysis here, but just so you know, those were both over a decade ago. And only once by knockout. It was in the 3rd round to Jeff Neal. Jeff Neal's a fucking monster and a top fighter, and that was a sustained beating, and he got put out in round 3. I'd write that off, but I have to say it was, I believe, his most recent loss, and it was somewhat recently. So there is that. I suppose it makes him look a little less healthy, but 32-year-old Luque, I'd consider that in his prime, and I'd say he's got way, way above average health as a fighter. So even though Ian Garry is uniquely dangerous in a lot of ways on the outside, I don't expect him to knock Vicente Luque out. I think if Ian Garry was to win this fight, it would be by outpointing him on the outside and winning a decision. Now, if that's true, it only leaves more room for Vicente Luque to clip Ian Garry. And I can't guarantee it's going to happen. My pick is Machado wins a decision. But yes, in case you didn't know, I'm betting on Vicente Luque. Vicente Luque's money line is juicy at plus 275, but I want to see what his finish line looks like. And even finish, I couldn't isolate it to knockout or submission, because again, if Vicente Luque knocks you half out, he's still likely to get a submission on you somehow. So I think in general, the finish prop for Vicente Luque is the way to go. But even if it was the same as his money line, I think there's still value on Vicente Luque at plus 275 here against Ian Garry. Ian Garry's looked phenomenal, but he can't afford one moment against Vicente Luque. He could afford moments against D-Rod and Neil Magny and Kenan Song. Can't afford one moment against Vicente Luque. If Vicente Luque has him in the spot Kenan Song did, he's going to knock him unconscious or choke him unconscious. So there's value on Luque, but the pick is Ian Garry, duplicates the Wonder Boy performance and wins the decision. Like, share, subscribe, all that horse shit. Check out my other videos.